Hi, and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Phil, aka Phil, and a few days ago I purchased the Q3 43 and loving this camera very much. Made a couple of videos about this camera already. Since this is quite a chunk of money, I'm also in the process of thinking which kind of camera I'm letting go from my current collection. And since in my mind the Nikon ZF also popped into my head, I thought, why not share my thoughts and make a video about that. If you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you know that basically I was able to kind of revive my channel with the Nikon ZF. I have this camera since launch, so I think it was introduced in September last year and was released in October last year. So I have this one about a year now. And to be honest, when it was previewed, I didn't have the intention to buy this camera. Over time, somehow this retro design intrigued me a lot. When it was released, I pulled the trigger to get this one and made a couple of videos about the Nikon ZF, shared my pros and cons, my use cases. Really like this camera. Since I have now the Q3, as I said, I was thinking about what would be the reasons to let this camera go. And to be honest, I only have two main factors, which are totally my personal reasons. And these I also shared in my previews of the Nikon ZF and also the videos after. And that's, first of all, the size of the Nikon ZF. I personally find the camera too big. I understand why it's bigger than the actual vintage film cameras, because Nikon packed a lot of tech here into this camera. The video specs are awesome. The IBIS in video is incredible, and all this kind of tech just needs space. I understand that, but still I just prefer smaller camera bodies. The second point why I would jump ship, so to say, would be being the lens choices, not specifically the Z mount, more specifically regarding the ZF. Right now you only have the 40mm kit lens f2 and this 28mm 2.8. They both have the same design and also the same size. And what I kind of criticized and miss on this retro design experience is that all native Nikon lenses don't have an aperture ring. Nowadays Sony has introduced in their newer lenses aperture rings, Canon also. And if you want to go manual, of course Vogtländer has also their manual focus lenses for the Z mount. But for autofocus lenses you can't get that at the time of this recording. So this is a little bit a bummer, to be honest. You only have the pretty dials, which I enjoy a lot. Of course, using these dials makes you slower, but nonetheless I love the tactile feel. But you don't have the aperture ring to adjust, and that's just something I miss personally. And that's basically the only two minor points why I would let go this camera. Think about that, the pros are much stronger for keeping this camera. First of all, for recording these kinds of videos, right now not, but normally I record with this setup, specifically the Nikon ZF and the 28mm 2.8. For me it's more than enough. The autofocus is on point on this camera. The internet meme that Nikon has bad autofocus is over. Since the Nikon Z9, Z8 and now also the ZF and the Z6 III, Nikon has catched up in the autofocus game, in my opinion. And when I record my videos, it's more than enough to for these kind of talking head shots. I also shot recently short wedding for a friend of mine, just as a favor, nothing professionally. And that's also the camera I took because I could rely on the autofocus. It was quite a great experience, shooting a wedding with this camera and relying on the autofocus, especially when I had one of my daughters on the arm and had still one arm to shoot, and the autofocus was still hitting the eyes. So that was quite incredible after seeing the results. So yeah, autofocus, and as I already mentioned, me specifically using the ZF for my videos is one of the strong points why I would keep this camera. Speaking of autofocus, I thought I will just quickly cut in and show you how the autofocus of the Q3 43 looks like in a talking head scenario. So comment below, am I out of focus? How does the image quality look like in comparison to the DJI? Do you notice anything? Let's continue my rant. The next point would be addressing why I got this camera in the first place, and that's specifically the retro design, of course. Canon and Sony haven't released any kind of retro camera yet. I'm curious if Canon is working at the time of this recording on such a camera. Let's see. But for now, it's only Nikon. This is basically the second iteration from Nikon. They have previously designed the Nikon ZF-C. That was an APC camera. Design looked quite similar to this one, but the body was mostly plastic, didn't feel right in the hands in my opinion. But this one feels great in the hand and has high build quality. Since this is basically my workhorse for recording YouTube videos, I'm also currently quite curious how the DJI Osmo Pocket footage would compare next to the ZF, because the ZF has a full frame sensor, performs great in low light, and the Osmo Pocket has only a 1-inch sensor. I'm not sure how this footage will look like. I will see this in post. You can drop a comment how you experienced that. To my long-term viewers, do you mind there was image quality compared to the ZF, or did you notice anything? I'm curious about that, because I also was thinking of switching completely to the Osmo Pocket, because that's more convenient to set things up. I can show you here how my set looks like right now. This is basically my setup. My studio setup. It's not a real studio, it's just my kitchen table in the kitchen setup with some lights and a shower curtain. I just realized I also missed to mention one more factor what I love about this camera, and that's the black and white mode. I have not only black and white mode, but specifically the black and white switch. Focus. I mentioned that also in a couple of videos, that having a dedicated black and white switch is somehow, for me personally, it's not a gimmick, it's something I really use. And speaking of the black and white mode, black and white straight out of camera and the color JPEGs, I use mostly rich portrait, are just amazing in my opinion. Nikon is one of the few cameras where I say that the color images straight out of camera are for me enough to share with people without retouching them in post. And now, after thinking about my thoughts, sharing with you, I have the feeling that I should keep the Nikon ZF. But there's also one fact that because of the size, I don't take this camera much outside since a couple of weeks or months, because if I go out, I take mostly my M setup, or now of course the Leica Q3, simply because of the size. Sure, you can't compare this price difference, I know that, so please don't be too harsh on me in the comments. But yes, the Q3 43, I only have this for a couple of days, as I mentioned, since this Q camera is now the Q camera I always wanted. Basically like a Q camera with a longer lens, and this is the case with 43 millimeters. Yeah, this is the setup I wanted to carry with me every day. And the Nikon ZF, I don't take this big one every time I go out. Yeah, first world problem, right? I know that. just geeking out about cameras right now. Although not having the retro design from an tactile experience point, you have everything. Here, of course, the shutter speed dial, your aperture, and your ISO you can set on this dial. And this lens is just amazing from the first shots I had so far. Short teaser, I will do a comparison between these two lenses. Just out of curiosity, how a 40mm and a 43mm looks like in comparison, but also how this relatively cheap 40mm f2 from Nikon renders images compared to this Apo lens. And don't get me wrong, this lens is the reason why I basically got this Leica Q3. Sorry, not this specific one, but the 40mm f2. I shot a lot of 40mm on the Nikon ZF, and as I already mentioned, that's the reason why I got this Leica Q3 43. Yes, I'm sorry, I think this video didn't make any sense because after sharing my thoughts with you out loud, somehow it emphasizes me to keep this ZF, but I think I will also have to evaluate my DJI footage if this is good enough in this studio lighting. I have the feeling that the image quality is not that great, just because I'm used to this crisp image quality of the ZF for videos. But let's see. Somehow this video didn't make any sense, I think, but I will probably upload it anyway and see how are your reactions. I'm just a fan of both cameras. I know the Q3 is a controversial camera because of the price tag, or Leica in general. But yes, as I said, I'm not discussing the price point between these cameras. If you're looking at the price, of course, you should get the ZF or keep the ZF and take the money off the Q3 somewhere else. But since I'm kind of a camera nerd, I like to put my money into cameras, also in Leica cameras. And on the contrary, I don't drink, party or smoke. So yeah, right now my feeling is to keep this camera next to the Q3. I have to check which I should let go. Next thought would be my X100VI, but that camera also has its specific use case. So I'm currently quite struggling which camera I should let go. If you made it until this point of my rant, thank you very much for your time. You are the one who deserves the like for that. If you like my content or my videos and want to support my small little channel, check out my affiliate links below in the description, or buy me coffee, link also in the description. More videos will come regarding the Q3, ZF and also the X100VI, and also I have one or two film photography ideas for videos, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to see more videos on my channel, just click on one of these and have a nice day.